In this video, we will see the process of creating prior year adjustments to post in period 13. We will look at the business trigger for this process, the data that is used to be able to run the process. We will run the process itself on IDEAS screens, look at the output and exceptions for the process. So what is the business trigger for entering a prior year period 13 adjustment? Usually, you need to do this when an adjustment is required to improve financial reporting precision. And it is common for these adjustments to be requested by auditors. And usually these are going to affect earnings to some degree. So say you already closed the year and then the auditors are looking at reviewing the prior year, and they find, for example, say some asset that should have been actually not capitalized and should be an expense, as an example. They may request that this asset be reclassed as an expense, and then this is going to affect retained earnings for the prior year. So to do these reclass, usually you will do an adjustment. In this case, reclassing the asset to expense in this example, and you would be moving it, you would be doing that in period 13. So to summarize, there's a need to do some sort of reclass or treat an expenditure differently than it was originally treated, and then to do this adjustment, you would do it in period 13. So what is the data that is involved in this process? Master data would be journal ID, chart of accounts, and other FQA elements, and the organizational data is the entity. So you need to know the entity, the journal ID, and of course the fully qualified accounts is going to be, or the fully qualified accounts that are going to be affected by the entry. The process is to access the General Ledger module, go to Journal Entry screen, select the entity, select prior year affecting journal, select prior period 13, and enter the journal. So just to clarify, we're looking at the process to enter these manually directly on the IDEAS screens, because this can also be done by loading from a spreadsheet using spreadsheet link, but there will be a separate video for that. So let's look at the process. We get to the General Ledger module, and once there we can go to Batch Entry or JE. And here you will select the company. You can select it from the drop down or type it in. And then what makes this different to any other, any normal manual journal entry is only selecting the journal ID. So instead of using, say, your manual journal ID, say this one, you would use this PY journal, which means prior year in this case in the description, prior year US dollar source in this case. So this journal, the only difference between entering a current year journal and a prior year journal is the journal ID. That's what rules if the entry is going to go to the prior year or to the current year. Everything else is basically the same. In this case, I'm just going to go and select period 13. So usually when you're doing these prior year adjustments, you have already done the year-end roll on the system, so you need to affect the prior year. And to affect the prior year, you're going to select a journal that is set up to affect prior year. So in this case, journal 5010, we know that it's a prior year affecting journal because of its description, prior year USD source, right? So if this description does not indicate that this is a prior year affecting journal, probably not the correct journal for entering these adjustments. And you would know, say, what journals are set to affect the prior year in the journal definition screen. As you can see, we have journal type here. The transaction code is prior year 1 USD source. So once we have selected the correct journal, we can go ahead and do the adjustment, which is the same process as entering any other manual journal. And you can review manual entry process video guide to see the details of that. Once we have entered that, we will have a journal that is pending to be validated and posted. And once you do the validation and posting, it's going to go to period 13, and the adjustment will be posted to period 13 on the prior year segment. Something to have clear here is that these prior year journals usually are not set to convert. So in this case, I have this journal that's USD source. If I wanted to also post the converted amount in the local currency, I would have to load or enter that adjustment manually on the converted currency journal. So in this case, we would do that, say in this case, let's say it's going to be, we're entering TTD source, right? And this TTD source is not set to convert. So then we would set the, we would enter the USD converted from that TTD source via this other journal. So another difference with, say, a current year manual journal is that those will be set to convert automatically, while these prior year journals are not set to convert. So the converted amount has to be loaded separately. Okay, so we see, as I stated, the output of that process is a journal entry pending to be validated and posted. And there's a separate video guide for these validation and posted steps. Exceptions to this, none have been identified at this point. So thanks for viewing this video, and whenever you have to do these period 13 adjustments, just to make it clear, basically the only difference is the type of journal you're selecting, or the journal name. So instead of using your current year manual journal entry, you would use a prior year journal. And that's most of the difference, or all the difference, between a regular manual journal entry and a prior year affecting manual journal entry.